Members of the Media Freedom Coalition have called on Israel to allow independent foreign journalists immediate access into Gaza. The joint statement, signed by 26 countries, is also urging for the protection of journalists already operating on the ground. It reads, "We oppose all attempts to restrict press freedom and block entry to journalists during conflicts. We also strongly condemn all violence directed against journalists and media workers, especially the extremely high number of fatalities, arrests and detentions. We call for all attacks against media workers to be investigated and for those responsible to be prosecuted in compliance with national and international law." I'm joined now by Jodie Ginsberg, who is the CEO of the Committee to Protect Journalists. Her organisation is part of the consultative network for the Media Freedom Coalition, and she joins me now live from New York. Jodie, thank you for joining us on Al Jazeera. Talk us through the significance of this statement, 26 countries all signing.
Well, as you mentioned, the CPJ is a member of MFC's consultative network, which is a group of non-profit organizations that advises governments and lobbies them on the protection of press freedom worldwide. And we've been pushing and promoting diplomatic efforts since the start of the war. And to us, this statement is an indicator that we are reaching a turning point, where the smearings, the killings, the arrests, the attacks on journalists have to go beyond diplomatic discussions and go into the public domain. So it's extremely welcome that nearly 30 governments have signed on to this statement. There are 51, and we expect all 51 of those members to sign up to this statement and then to put it into action.
And Jodie, of course, this has become, sadly, a familiar pattern of Israel targeting journalists, even targeting their families. Why do you think that there is a turning point at this moment?
I think there's a turning point at this moment because of the outrage that we've seen in relation to the killing of al-Sharif and his colleagues last week. I think it became clear to people the pattern that we have been talking about for many, many months of Israel smearing journalists, of Israel deliberately targeting journalists. And in this case, we saw 6 journalists killed, of which only one Israel said it was deliberately targeting. Only one did Israel even come up with some justification. But in the case of the 5 other journalists, hasn't even offered an explanation. And I think for many, many people, it became clear what CPJ and others have been saying for some time, which is that Israel is deliberately targeting journalists who are civilians and should be afforded protection, as is outlined in the MFC statement.
And Jodie, of course, as I know, the CPJ has noted that even when Israel does provide some sort of justification for targeting a journalist, in this case Anas al-Sharif, it doesn't provide any evidence for the claims that it makes.
We've yet to see any credible evidence in any of the cases in which the Israeli army, the Israeli armed forces are alleging that an individual was a terrorist. We're not able to verify independently the documents that the IDF has shared. It's only shared them online, obviously. And of course, we aren't able to get into Gaza to verify any of these claims. No international journalist has been given independent access to Gaza since the start of the war. And this, again, is really important for the MFC to stress.
Jodie, of course, there are 2 main points to this statement, as you've noted, not only about the protection of the Palestinian journalists already working so tirelessly on the ground, but also the need for foreign journalists to be given access to Gaza. Do you see these as equally important, that in both of these methods, Israel is trying to stop the truth from getting out?
Absolutely. The targeting of journalists, the targeting of media facilities, the banning of outlets like Al Jazeera, the sanctions against Israeli outlets like Haaretz, all of that is part of a systematic attempt to censor the information coming out of Gaza and control the narrative, as is the denial of foreign journalists into Gaza. And one thing that would be, I think, immensely powerful is for governments not just to call for their correspondents to be allowed into Gaza, but actually go with those journalists themselves and make that representation to Israel directly. We need for this to change.
Right, thank you so much, Jodie. That's Jodie Ginsberg, the CEO of the Committee to Protect Journalists.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.